Hey guys, so welcome to this session on setting up for success in the new music industry. So let me lay out what we're going to do over the next hour. This is all about setting targets and understanding strategies, understanding what is needed of you moving forward. After all, most of us are prepared to do what it takes to get that success that we want, except no one really tells us what that means or what it is that we need to do. So over the next hour or so, I want to go into a bunch of things that you need to think about before we start taking action. A lot of things to understand, a lot of the things to know, a lot of strategies and targets. The way I think of it is, we've got this big roadmap in DKMBA, an 8-hour roadmap with loads and loads of information. The thing with the roadmap is, just like any normal roadmap is, you still need a destination. You still need to know where it is you're going. Otherwise, you've got a roadmap that will take you somewhere, but is it taking you to the right place? So understanding that destination is very, very important. And then after that, it becomes like a kind of a meal with ingredients and a recipe. We understand what it is we're cooking. We've got the ingredients, we've got the recipe. And at that point, we can start to take action. We can start to put all of this together and start moving forward. So, and a big part of this as well is the end goal for most of you will probably have some kind of return of investment. And by that, I mean, making some money back off the time, effort, energy, and passion and your art. Wouldn't it be great if we could actually start to make some money back? And for most of us, that will come in the form of, multiple different areas, streams, potentially merchandise, sync music, touring, or ticket sales, could even be memberships. And so understanding the areas of your skill set, of your journey, of your music, and how all of this pieces together so that we aren't doing a lot of kind of hit and hope. We're not just saying, I'm doing lots of things. This is a case of how do we pull all of this together to make it one coherent strategy. When it comes to return of investment, especially in the music industry, it's very important that we play the right return of investment game. So what I mean by that is, instead of saying, well, I've made some music, how do I make money from it? What we do is we design the game. We design how we want to bring that money in. So let's say, for example, we want to play the streaming game. Well, in which case, we're probably going to need more than 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 songs because we're playing that specific game for a return of investment. So if we said, well, that's where we want to make our money, then you've got audio, you've got video, you've also need to have a library. That's where record labels make so much money because they're not working off 1 or 2 songs, they're working off thousands of songs. And interestingly enough, if you actually look at the most streamed artists on Spotify, the billion streams, as it were, out of all the billion streams, only one of those artists, Post Malone, has less than 100 songs. If you look at Drake, I think he's got 225, 228 songs. Ed Sheeran, 160, 180 songs. A lot of these artists have a big library because they understand they're playing that streaming game. And that goes for video as well as audio. So this is very important because this is how we set ourselves up. Just because we say, I've got a t-shirt, I'll sell t-shirts, that'll be merch. We're not playing the merch game. What we're doing there is we're just introducing a revenue stream instead of saying, no, I'm going to play the game so that I can build up a proper revenue off something by playing that game. So let's start with where the music industry is now. And in order to do that, we also have to look at where the music industry has come from. So quickly, trip down memory lane. Let's take a trip back 20 or 30 years. So back in the day, you'd hire a huge studio and that would cost you, $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 per day, which didn't include a producer, an engineer, or musicians. And that was just to make the music. On top of that, then you had to have the distribution. So you'd have to have the network, which for example would be thousands of shops all over the world, or at least all over the country. And with that in mind, we'd have to get all of the CDs there. So we'd have to manufacture a bunch of CDs, let's say 100,000 CDs. That's going to cost a fair whack. Then we've got to get those CDs on the back of trucks to a network of shops that will sell these CDs. So for an artist back in the 80s, the 90s, there weren't a lot of options. There were gatekeepers to record labels because labels had the power, because labels had the money. If you wanted to get your music, your record out there, it would have to be done via vinyl, cassette, CD, And in order to do that, well, that's going to cost you a lot of money. So therefore, you'd have these sort of huge bills of, $300, $400, $500,000 to get you started as an artist. Now, most of you guys can't just dip your hand in your pocket and bring out $500,000. But things have changed because over the last couple of years, because of social media, because of DSPs like Spotify, it's allowed you to be able to distribute your music. And coupled with the fact that you can, if you want to, record music for free in your home, all of the costs have come down, which is amazing because we now live in a time where you have complete control, which is fantastic. We all love it. We're all aware of that. You can make music for next to nothing. You can distribute it for next to nothing. You can build an audience for next to nothing, and you can monetize that audience. Brilliant. The problem, as we're all aware now, is so can everybody else. And therefore, you have this huge noise of everyone jumping up and down, trying to get attention with their music. And so therefore, you have this thing called noise. You're fighting to try and make it through the noise, and so is everybody else. So that's when we need to say, okay, yes, it is all about the music, but we have to get this music heard. If we want to get something viral, it means we have to get it heard, and we have to get people sharing it. We have to get people enjoying it. We have to build that audience so that we can monetize it. Now, fast forward to today, and you do have all of the power. But what most artists do is they say, well, I've made the music, I've put it on Spotify. Now I've done some social media posts. Hopefully I will now get a massive audience and I will go #1 and have everything that I've ever dreamed of. The reality is it doesn't work like that. What we've got to do is we have to reverse engineer this. We have to find the audience. We have to go after the audience. We have to bring in the audience. Then we have to house the audience and look after the audience so that we can then monetize the audience, if that makes sense, which means there's a lot of moving parts to this. It's not just a case of saying, I'll put the music out there and hope for the best. This is about us understanding the audience. And that's where your avatar comes in. Your avatar is so crucially important. Your avatar is effectively your perfect audience member, your perfect demographic. So yes, back in the day, we used to say, oh, I make rock music, or I make metal, or I make funk, or I make jazz. Whereas nowadays, very different time. We have playlists, but we're after trying to find the right people to listen to your music, usually in the right time as well, going to the gym or in the car or, chilling on a Sunday, and those actually become playlists. But we're after specific people. So if I said to you right now, who's your perfect avatar? Who's your perfect demographic? Normally when I ask this question, I get quite a wide range. You might be thinking to yourself, do you know what? It's pretty wide. It's kind of like, it's young people, old people, guys, girls. The issue with this is it probably isn't. And so it means we haven't drilled down into the audience, because the difference between a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old is huge. You remember being 15, you remember being 19, you certainly remember then when you get to 30, you don't think like a 19 or a 15-year-old. If you're 50, you don't think like a 30-year-old. Everyone's got different tastes and have lived different things. So whilst age is not always a factor, it probably is a factor. And while most artists will say, it's kind of 50-50 split male and female, you'd be surprised, usually it's heavily weighted or a little bit more heavily weighted on one or the other. Then you've got interests. So as an artist, you stand for something. You say, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I stand for. And you want people on the other side to say, yes, absolutely, I stand for those things as well, and you represent those things, and I'm attaching myself to you. So we have to get those interests, not just in the music, but in you, the artist, and the brand. Don't forget, there is a very, very big difference between an artist and music. Making good music is great. People will go, I love that song, it's a great song. But that doesn't mean that they'll buy from you as an artist. It doesn't mean they're in the journey of the next song and the next album and coming on tour and buying that t-shirt and waving their flag for you. They just like the song. And so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to build longevity by building an audience, not just around the music, but around being an artist and what you stand for. So this leads me on to two questions. In fact, two of the biggest questions you will probably ever have to answer and keep having to answer. These two questions are absolutely crucial. The first one of those questions is, who are you? And the second one is, why? Why do you do this? These two questions are so important because you say, well, I make music. I like making music. Great. But from the other side, from the consumption, from the person who's watching this, they need to know who you are because they are going to stand next to you. They're going to take that flag. You've planted that flag into the ground and they're just saying, yes, I'm fighting the same fight. Even if you're writing love songs and ballads or party anthems, it doesn't make any difference. You are saying, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is why we're here and this is why we do this. And have a lot of people who say, that's what I've been looking for. That's what all of the connections that I stand for. And therefore, they are more likely to hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, listen, tell their friends, come to a gig. So these two questions, who are you and why do you do this? The why is kind of interesting because not only is it why do you do this, but then it comes to flipping it to the other side. As someone who might be listening to your music or coming into your socials, why should I care? Which is a slightly different way of phrasing it. Why should I care? Yeah, I've seen you, but there's loads and loads of other artists. There's loads and loads of other people around. Why should I care? And therefore, what do I get? Because we live in a very selfish world. And you're saying, well, you get my music. And it's like, good. I need to attach myself to it. Why should I care? What's the bit? What's your superpower? What's the bit that makes me care when I hear your music or when I see you or when I understand who you are as an artist? So if you're not quite sure, this is the point where we whip it back to the beginning and we start asking some questions. Because if you're thinking, I'm not entirely sure who my avatar is, or I'm not totally sure of the who I am and the why, then we need to start doing some research. And so some questions like, for example, if you were going to support an artist, who would you support? Now, the reason why I ask this question is because sometimes I have in the past possibly said to artists, who do you sound like? Which is the worst thing you can ever say to a band or an artist because they very much don't like that. So over the years, I've learned to say, who would you go on tour with as a tour support? Because that way we're starting to look at the audience and the genre and the connections of someone else. So you're not saying, who do you sound like? You're saying, well, I don't sound like anybody else. But if I was going to go on tour with an artist, I'd probably go on tour with these artists. Now, you need to write these down. Who would you go on tour with? The next one, if you were going to headline any festival in the whole world, which festival would you headline and why? And I'm hoping that it's because you're thinking of the other artists playing, you're looking out into the crowd in your brain and thinking, yeah, that's our kind of people. So which festival would you headline? The next one is, if there was a magazine that you could be front cover of, which front cover magazine? Which would you choose? Which would you love to be front cover? Because again, that magazine has a specific audience. You tap into which magazine, you're probably tapping into the audience the same way as you're tapping into to the artists. Then we go a little bit deeper. If you could record in any studio in the world, which studio would you record and why? And then from there, which producer would you love to bring in? If you could have any producer in the whole world, because these producers have probably produced albums or artists that you're a big fan of, therefore that influence will start to cross over. Now, these are the questions that will start to bring people into who you are and why you do this, because you're starting to understand the company that you keep, the influences that you have. So start to think about answering these questions, write them all down, and don't just have one answer, have as many as you want. Start to do some research. And if you're not sure, this is where Google becomes your friend. The more of this stuff you understand, the more you can get to know your avatar and your audience. And the more we understand them, the cheaper it is to get in front of them and the easier it is to get them to stick, to get them to come in and stay in. Now, another great example is you designing yourself. Now, bear with me because this is quite weird, but I'm a big fan of a vision board. And the reason for this is because you can have an out-of-body experience. When we talk about the who you are, usually there's kind of two sides. So let's take me, for example. I'm Damo. You talk to me, you say, hey, Damo, and I'm like, hey, man, how you doing? And we have a chat. But when I'm brand Damian Keyes, I'm starting to think of myself in a different way. Damo will just stick a t-shirt on, nip out, go to the pub. Whereas brand Damian Keyes, I'm starting to think, well, hang on, what am I putting out there? What's the message? Would Would Damian Keyes say this? Would Damian Keyes do that? And it's weird. I get it. It's totally weird. But the reason for this is because most of us live in what I would class as a 70-30 or 75-25 world, where we're struggling with social media and getting our message out there. Normally, because we live 75% of our lives as Damo, Damo or Dave or Sarah. But the 25%, when it's Damian Keyes or you, the artist, is different. Now you're thinking about how you can push yourself out there. Now, the problem with this is it's very difficult to do all the social media as Damo because I'm trying to push this brand. So I've got limited time. So the more we can flip this around so that you are your brand on a longer period of the day, a longer period of the week, the easier it is for you to do your socials. So this idea of taking yourself out, having an out-of-body experience and designing yourself means you're looking at it saying, would I actually wear that? Would brand so-and-so actually wear that? And then this is where it gets really interesting. You can make a vision board. You can do this on Pinterest. You can just literally go on Google. You can copy and paste pictures into a file, whatever you want to do. But imagine this. You take yourself and you put yourself in the middle. And then you say, right, I'm going to design everything, which means clothes. What clothes should I be wearing? And what clothes am I wearing going, I shouldn't really wear that? Because, it's not about having t-shirt and jeans. It's about having the right t-shirt and the right jeans. If you're going to wear, certain accessories or a hat, all of a sudden it's the right accessories, the right hat. If you're going to play a guitar, we can sit here and, if you're a guitarist, we can sit and have a conversation about guitars, and some guitars are acceptable, some guitars not acceptable. And you can do this with every aspect of the who you are. You can start bringing in pictures. So then you start thinking about things like, what other artists inspire me? I'll bring them into the vision board and I'll put pictures of them in because they're part of my world. And you say, great, well, what else? Well, instruments or actors or books or films that have inspired you, they can start coming in as well. Things that are inspirational to you. Then you could say even things like colors or fonts, or you could say, where would I live? Because these start to ask this question. For example, if I said to you, if you could, where would you live? Would you live on the 65th penthouse apartment floor in a city in New York? Or would you live in a ranch with 35 acres and you've got cattle and horses? Because you can start to see the people that will listen to the music if you're in New York in a penthouse versus if you're on a ranch with cattle. You can start to see these things. What car would you drive? Would you drive an old beaten up truck, or would you ride a motorbike? Because motorbikes are cool. If you're going to ride a motorbike, is it a racing motorbike? Is it a Harley? What sort of motorbike is it? Now you're taking yourself out of you. You're putting the picture there and say, hang on, this isn't adding up. None of this works. So you start to design brand you. Now at this point, you're not just designing yourself, you're designing the world. And what's brilliant is now we can start to implement the world into your socials. Because if you're saying, hey, this is all about beards and motorbikes and tattoos, it's like, great, well, this is a good start for what we're going to be implementing into our Instagram that goes along with the music. And probably people who like beards and tattoos and are a bit hipster, they're probably going to like what I'm creating. So it's just an example, but creating a vision board with yourself in it, but designing the brand. If I design Damo, then it's pretty different to designing Damian Keyes. So therefore, I want you to think about the same thing. Now then, once we've designed you, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up the party. Now, I call this the party. I think it's the best metaphor because it works perfectly with your music. Yes, we want your music to get out there. Yes, we want people to listen to it. But what we actually want to do is we want to set up a party, because think about it. If you set up the party and you are the person who's putting on the party, you are the most important person in the party, people are going to come into your party, and at that point, you can have conversations, you can play them. You're building an awesome venue as such, an awesome party. But here's the thing, what we need to do is we need people not just to come into the party, we need to get people to stay in the party. So think of it like you're throwing a party, but let's say it's a venue, for example. You've just bought this venue so you can throw this massive party, and you've got this venue and it's just an empty shell. And the lighting's terrible, and it's cold, and the bar's not set up, and there's no alcohol, there's no atmosphere whatsoever. It's a bit dirty. So you think, right, this can be anything that I want it to be. This venue can be anything. So you start building it the way that you want it to be. The lighting makes a difference. The air temperature makes a difference. The people who are going to come in will also depend on, what food or what alcohol or what music is playing, because the music's a big part of it. Is it live music? Are they over there? What are they playing? All of these things, you're designing this place. Now, whilst you're designing it, people will be coming in. People will be sticking their head around the door going, what's this? And you go, oh, it's a venue and we're making this big party. But at which point they go, it's not ready, and they're going to leave. And this is what happens with social media. People come in more and more. Let's say Instagram and YouTube. People are coming in more than you realize, especially on Instagram, where you don't get to see the stats of how many people just stumble across your Instagram, but they don't stay. They don't hit the follow button. They come in and they leave. And what we've got to do is we have to make your social media sticky. We have to make sure that when someone comes in, they look around and say, this is for me. And at that point, they hit the follow button because they have that fear of missing out. They say, no, I want to stay. I want to stay in your party. And at that point, once they're in and they're staying, that's not just building the numbers. We're actually finding people that go from audience to fan. Now we're actually being able to bring in new people. You see, bringing people in and actually getting attention is now easier than it has ever been before. You don't have to go and do a gig. You can literally put a post out there, and we'll talk about the algorithm later. But even if you just put $1 or £1 into a boost or, some kind of advert, it will get shown in front of people. It's easier than it's ever been. The problem here is it's not just about getting attention, because people are coming in. And so we need to get them to stay. And that then comes down to the 3-second rule. Because, everyone's got this, the fickle finger of fate, of doom, where they're just scrolling. Yep, nope, yep, nope, yep. And at which point you're in there somewhere, in amongst another 100 or 200 or 300 swipes. Yep, whatever, gotcha, maybe. And we're trying to get people to stop and pay attention and enjoy it so that they go and watch the video, or potentially like, or potentially comment, or even super like, or even share. So with that in mind, that 3-second rule is important. So let's say someone comes into your party, they look around and they go, oh, okay, cool, and they leave. They might say, this is cool, but they leave. So that didn't help us much. They've come in and they haven't done anything. They haven't done what we want. What we need them to do is we need them to come in and say, oh yes, this is cool. Remind me when your next gig is. Remind me on that next party. And in order to do that, I'll hit that follow or I'll hit that subscribe. Because in doing that, what we're doing is we're actually saying, I'm making content that you will want to see more of. So that's the fear of missing out. I like that. I wonder what's coming next. I tell you what, I don't want to miss out. I'll hit the follow button. So this means bringing people into the party, which is all about getting attention. Now, here's the interesting thing. Many people believe, or many artists believe, that is the golden chalice of getting attention to music. The more attention I get, the more chance there is of me getting success, which I don't buy into. I understand the concept, but I don't buy into it. And the reason for that is because getting attention now is the easiest thing. It's easier than it has ever been in the history of ever, because you can make a post, write a song, you can post it to your socials for free. And I understand there's the algorithm for people saying, yeah, but the algorithm doesn't show it. But here's the thing, you can hit that little blue button underneath, you can put in $1 or £1, and you can boost that to an audience of your choice of people who have never seen you before. That is getting attention. Same way as if someone took you on tour. If you went on tour and you did a support slot with Ed Sheeran to 80,000 people, you'd go, oh, that's it. 80,000 people are going to see me. Does that mean 80,000 people are going to remember me? No. Does it mean 80,000 people are going to buy my stuff and become a fan? No. Some of them will, of course. But what we've got to do is we've got to make it so it's as good as possible. So when the 80,000 people do see you, they go, this is amazing. So it's not just about getting attention, which means bringing people into the party, means they're sticking their head around the door and saying, cool, and then leaving. It means we get to this 3-second rule. It means we have to do everything in 3 seconds. We have to make people decide whether they're going to come in, because all they've done is they've just looked around the door, they've peeked around the door. Now, They're not coming in, they're just peeking. At that point, they will make a decision in 3 seconds whether they're going to come in, whether they're going to ask questions, whether they're going to engage, or whether they're going to go, and they're going to leave. That 3-second rule is very, very important. So this means your hero picture, your bio, your highlights, and the last 6 pictures on your Instagram are very important. Think about those last 6 pictures. In fact, if you want to, get up your Instagram, get up your phone, and check out those last 6 pictures and start to think, do those 6 pictures in their entirety represent me as an artist? Or have I just started taking pictures and videos and plonking them on there because I think they'll be really good, but out of those 6 pictures, if anyone comes in, they're going to go, I don't know what I'm looking, I don't know who you are. So do they represent you fully as an artist? Is your music on there somewhere in the last 6 pieces of content? Are there pictures of you, good pictures of you within the last 6 pieces of content? If you're trying to get gigs and you're trying to go on tour, are there pictures of crowds or you on tour or you on stage within the last 6 pictures? We can start to take this world that we've created and start to put it into socials. But what we have to do is we have to remember that yes, we are looking after people. That's very important. But we're also setting things up for people who are coming in. Someone comes in, they are making that decision. Do I swipe up? Do I leave? Or do I hit that follow button? They're going to make that decision in a couple of seconds, and those things matter. A hero picture, that matters. That has to represent you. Something you say, that is everything about me, that's in the hero picture. That bio is an opportunity for someone to read it and go, wow. And if you say, 25-year-old singer-songwriter from this area, that's what, and what. It's not inspiring. It's going, okay, well, at least I know you're a 25-year-old singer-songwriter from that area. It doesn't inspire me to go, wow, yeah, that's cool. Same thing when it comes to your last piece of content. So that 3-second rule becomes very, very important. So now we've built the party, the next thing is to think about content. But before we just dive straight in and start making content, which is what most people do, again, we want to have a plan. We want to start thinking about how we're going to lay this out. We want to start building habits. How many times have you been inconsistent with posting? How many times do you think, I'm in this rhythm, and then all of a sudden a week goes past and you know, because your brain's going, you should be posting, and you go, I will, I haven't really got anything to say, and then a week goes past and you think to yourself, Gary Vaynerchuk's telling me to post 5 times a day on every single platform, and I don't know how to get the quality versus the quantity. Of course. And then your brain starts telling all of this anxiety-ridden stuff of you're not doing it well enough and you've got to do it more, and it's pretty stressful. And so what we want to do is we want to focus on the right aspect, and I believe most artists focus on the wrong aspect. Here's what I mean. Most people focus on posting content. What am I going to post? Whereas I believe we should be focusing on a different question. What am I going to create? Very, very subtle difference. What am I going to post? What am I going to create? What am I going to post? All of a sudden has taken you right up to the deadline. We're going to post something, got to post it. What are we going to post? What are we going to do? All of a sudden it's like, come on, let's get this out. Let's get the ball rolling. And that's when you pick up the phone, you take a selfie and go, that'll do, I'll put that out there. Or you just go, I'll look through my photos and go, oh yeah, that one's good. Why? Because we're concentrating on the posting. And I want us to concentrate on the creative. So let's say, for example, now you have 2 hours free on a Tuesday. That's a time we just go, look, I've just got a couple of hours on a Tuesday. So for those 2 hours, I'm going to create something. Now, different ballgame. Now it's exciting. Oh, I've got 2 hours. What can I create with my 2 hours for my audience? I'm putting my audience first. What would I love to create? What can I do? It's like, well, I could perform a song. That might be quite nice. I could write something. I could make a vlog. I could do a challenge. I could do many things. I could do a photo shoot. I could do many things, but I've also allocated myself enough time to set up, to make sure I have got a light, to make sure if I have got a camera and a stand and a backdrop, because these things do make a difference now. When people just say, I did a podcast the other day and someone just said, the whole advertising and social media thing, does it still work because of the algorithm? And it was like, of course it does. All of this stuff works. The problem you've got isn't that it doesn't work. The problem is it's harder than it was 6 months ago. And that's harder than it was 6 months before that. So the bar keeps getting raised. More and more people are jumping in. More and more people are getting good at it. So it is now harder to grow on Instagram than it was a year ago. Is it doable? Of course it is. You just got to raise the bar. We've just got to be a bit better. Is it easy? No. Is it doable? Completely yes. Same thing on YouTube, same thing on TikTok, same thing everywhere. All we've got to do is we've got to raise the bar enough so that we're just above everybody else, and at that point you stick out like an absolute sore thumb. So with that in mind, I believe everything starts with the calendar. You'll see that a lot in DKMBA in different courses. The calendar comes first because you are designing your week. You are taking the anxiety of what you should post away and you're saying, I've got time to create. I'm going to put that creation time here and here, which means you've got setup time, you've got creation time, you've got thinking time, you've got editing time. Whatever it is that you're doing, you have time to make something that you're proud of. Because how many times, and you know, if you're honest, how many times if you look through your Instagram, are you looking through going, I'm not proud of some of these posts. They're okay, but I'm just posting for the sake of posting. And how many times have you put something out and said, that's good, I'm really proud of that one. Well, what if you took that feeling, that proud feeling, and you multiplied that every single time you posted on social media? Everyone else would feel the same way. Everyone would go, oh, that's really good. And what would happen? You get more engagement, you get more likes, you get more people looking at it, you get more people sharing it. Why? Because it's good. You know it's good because you are proud of it. So that's what we've got to do. We've got to concentrate on the creation time, which means we have to go into the calendar. And so if we're looking at the calendar, we're not just saying, hey, I've got 2 hours on a Tuesday to create some content. We're looking at the entire structure of the next 6 to 12 months. What about if you said, over the next 12 months, how many singles am I going to release? How many videos do I want to release? How many pieces of content do I want in? Then we take it to the calendar and we start to input it. This is where I'm going to post, yes, but this is where I'm going to create the stuff. Because if I said to you, well, great, you're going to put a new single out on the 16th of August. Great. But you've got to create it, which means you've got to write it, you've got to arrange it, you've got to pre-produce it, you've got to produce it, you've got to mix it, you've got to master it, you've got to get it live on Spotify. It's a lot of work from just me saying to you, put that song out. So with our music, we think of it the other way around. Hang on, I've written this song, now I'm going to build it into the release. With our socials, we think from the opposite way around. I need to post something now and I haven't created anything. That's why most of us struggle with socials. So after the setup and the planning, now comes the big thing, the content creation. And the content creation is absolutely vital. And this is where we need to start making content of value. Now, let me explain what I mean of value. If you bring up your Instagram and you look at the insights of any of your last posts, as long as you've got a business or an artist account, it will tell you how many people liked, how many people engaged. And this is something that we look at for a measurement of success, like or engage. But if you think about it, there's two other pieces of measurements that are far more important. The other two on that are either shares or saves. A save is like a super like. Instead of a like, I liked it so much, I want to see it again. We're feeding data, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We're feeding data into the platform, into, in this case, Instagram, because someone's saying, I saved it for later. Instagram goes, oh, it must be important. Now, when it comes to sharing, that's even bigger. What we're saying is, I like this so much. I want to show my friends. I want to show my circle of friends, acquaintances, or audience. And at that point, Instagram not only says, oh, that's good, but also these people start seeing your stuff. So rather than this, the algorithm doesn't work, we have to start saying, no, I have to make content of value, because if I make content which is so valuable that someone does the work for me, they'll share it. So imagine if you made a piece of content and 10 people shared it, and that got in front of another 200, 300, 500 new people who didn't know who you were because they shared something that they believed in, because they were so proud of what you did. So if we can do that, it becomes a very powerful tool. But how can we do that? Well, I'm going to tell you, with the use of an anagram, which I created myself, copyright me, which is the anagram time. These four things can take your content from, just posting and having people like or engage, to having people share or save and getting them to do the work for you, getting this stuff viral. And the first one with time is T. T is for talent. Now, talent is a big thing. People will share talent. People will attach themselves to talent because they want to show all their friends. How many times have you gone, you have to see this? It's because something's triggered in you going, oh my God, you have to see, this is amazing. You have to see this. That talent means I get people share videos of 8-year-old bass players who are better than me. Davo, look at this dude. And I'm like, yeah, great. And a big part of that is because people are going, not only am I showing you this, but I'm building social status. This is important. Social currency. We're trading it all the time. So when I'm saying I'm building social status, if I share something and you go, wow, that is amazing, I feel good. I wasn't in the video. I didn't do anything. All I did was show you, but my social standing starts to go up. My social currency, I did that. I made you feel like that. I triggered you going, wow, that's amazing. So we share talent, because the other reason we're doing is that social currency where we're actually saying, I attach myself to this. People will share talent because they're saying, I recognize talent, but also if it's, meaningful or if it makes you feel a certain way, they'll say, well, yeah, I personally, feel like this, and I want you to know what I like, what I connect with, what I feel. All of these things. This is social currency. This is social standing. It's very important. Talent is the first part of that because talent is very, very shareable. So what does that mean for you? It means, why don't you do a live performance? Why don't you start actually thinking, hang on, what do I do? I'm an artist. I write songs. I perform songs. So therefore, I need to make sure that I'm doing this on a regular basis so people are hearing your voice, they're hearing your words, they're listening to your songs and going, oh, that's so good. I have to tell my friends about you. You're brilliant. Because everybody has got that story of, that one gig. I saw them way back in the day where there was only 30 people there. Now they're playing stadium. We've all got those stories. And people love that. I was there first. That's what talent can bring. Then with the anagram, you get I. I is for inspiration. And this is a big one. People share inspiration all day long. They love sharing inspiration. And a reason, social currency, social standing. If I share someone else's stuff that makes you feel inspired, I get the brownie point. I feel like I went, yeah, it was kind of me that inspired you. I didn't make the thing. I just shared it. But I feel like I get the brownie points when someone goes, wow, that's amazing. And I go, yeah, I discovered it. I found it. I inspired you with this thing. But if you think about it, from you as an artist, you're inspirational. You are an inspirational person to a lot of people because most people aren't creative. They can't sing. They can't perform. And you're writing lyrics. You're writing powerful, emotional lyrics, which will also speak to someone and people will go, oh, that's inspirational. The things that you do is so inspirational. So as well as talent, you can make a post like, for example, a great lyric or title that you've got, and instead of just letting it be in the song, we bring it to the forefront. We just go, that is a really good line. And you literally make it into a piece of content with that one line, with your name on it. You make it in something pretty. And at that point, people see it and go, oh, that's good. I want that on my socials. So what do? We share it. And of course, it gets shared. Your work, you're tagged, people will find you because you're getting that influence as such. Then is M. M is for moving. It's kind of for emotion, but T-I-M-E was a much better anagram than T-I-E-E. So I'm going with M. M is for moving people or emotion. People love to share emotion. If you can do something that triggers someone's emotion, they want to share that to someone else so that they get triggered that emotion. Because again, if I can make you feel something, I did that. Even though it's a video of a puppy or it's a video of something else, that emotion gets triggered and I feel like I get the brownie points. Again, this is all social proofing, social currency, social standing, all of these things. So therefore, if you can share something emotional, you win. But let's face it, that's all we do. We trigger emotion. Whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, whether it's politics, all of these emotions are things that you trigger in music. That's what music does. We feel something when we listen to music. We listen to something and we just go, wow, I feel inspired. I feel angry. I listened to Rage Against the Machine when I was 15 and it was Fuck the Man. I was like, yeah, that's right. Angsty. But then at the same point, I might listen to Damian Rice and be like, oh, I feel sad today. So, triggering those emotions are very important. So emotions get shared, which is why you see so many like fluffy puppies and kittens. You see so many, veterans coming home from war and seeing their mum or their dog for the first time in 9 months, and they go absolutely crazy, and we're watching it going, oh, it's lovely. It's because we triggered that emotion. What do we do then? We pass it on. We pass that on to other people. So you are the creator of that emotion. And lastly, E is for education. Not as big as talent, inspiration, and movement or emotion, but education is still very shareable. When we learn something, we say, that's amazing. I just learned something. And now I want to teach something, even though I probably just found that fact out. So we find loads of these little facts out, and then we do these did you know or check this out, and we share those things. Now, this one does get used by artists a lot, and I believe it gets used in the wrong way. The amount of times I see Logic on a screen and saying, look, new music coming, and I'm like, what does that even mean? That is nothing at all. Whereas imagine this. Imagine if you've got your new track and you just made a 1-minute Instagram and it said, building my new track, drums, and the drums start, bass, the bass starts, guitar, the guitar starts, keyboard comes in, and then vocals. All of a sudden, people are going, wow, that's how you built up a track. That's really clever. You got the drums, and then the bass, and then the keyboards, and the guitars, and then the vocals, and the backing vocals. That is really, really cool. You've done something which is fun, inspirational, exciting, talent, but also a little bit educational, but it's done in a fun, exciting way, as opposed to just educating someone and saying, did you know that Fender started making guitars in blah, blah. I mean, people going, okay, that's not helping you as an artist or with your music. So it needs to be fun. It needs to fit into this talent, inspiration, emotion, or movement, and education. And then lastly, all of these shareable commodities have to fit under one thing, one word, the most important word that I want you to be thinking about every single day. That word is interesting. Not good, not great, interesting. The reason is because, again, people share interesting. People stop for interesting. People think about interesting. Whereas good, as Seth Godin says, we're surrounded by good. Good is not good enough. We're surrounded by good all day. You know, swipey, 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 that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. Some people can do something which is great, but interesting will always get people to stop and go, oh, this is interesting. So that word, talent, inspiration, movement or emotion, and education fitting underneath the banner of interesting. And I've got an example of this. So the other day, I was recommended a video on my YouTube Explore by a guy called Frank Watkinson, I believe his name was. The guy's probably in his 60s, don't want to do him any disservice, sort of acoustic guitar, sat in his bedroom, bit Johnny Cash-like, and the video came up and it said, a cover of Snuff by Slipknot. And I thought to myself, what? You know, Slipknot, they've got all their crazy stuff on, massive distorted guitars, double bass drum, and there's a dude who's taken the lyrics, which is, and he's made it into a ballad. And it's just like my cover of Snuff by Slipknot. And I was like, well, I have to see this. It's intriguing. It's interesting. I click in it. I start watching it. No production values, just him with an acoustic guitar playing his version of Snuff by Slipknot. That video had over 2 million views. The reason for that is because it's interesting. Now, on his channel, when I went into it, there was loads of other videos of his own songs. There was loads of videos of just covers of what you'd expect, Johnny Cash, for example, and they'd get a couple of thousand views. But this one had 2 million. Why? Because of that word, interesting. Because he did A plus B multiplied by C. A plus B. I'm an artist, so therefore I'll sing a song. Great. Who doesn't do that? But when you say, I'm an artist, I'm a performer, therefore I will sing a song, and now I'm going to sprinkle on the fairy dust, which is C, which in his case, he said, I'm going to do a cover of something that you won't expect, so I'm going to do one of Slipknot Snuff. And at which point, he sprinkles on the magic fairy dust, which is C, A plus B, multiplied by interesting, and we all paid attention. Well, everyone who watched that video paid attention. From there, he got a couple 100,000 subscribers. People are now watching his other videos because he brought it under that bracket of interesting. So then the last part, which is how we're going to build and grow this audience into something monumental that we can monetize, that will be there for us. Well, I believe a big part of this is what I call the power of one. The power of one means that if you've got 1,000 people in your social media, then that is 1,000 individual people. And so if we treat them as one herd of 1,000, you will not get the same traction as if you treat them as 1,000 individuals. You look after people. As soon as you start looking after people, what happens is you create legacy. You create legacy in one person, and not only will they tell the people around them, but if you do that in the right way, other people will see, and you're training the audience to say, I want that. I want to feel like that. I want it to be special and specially treated. And therefore, they're going to come in. They're going to stick around. They're going to get involved. And what happens is, over that period of time, we start building via one at a time. One becomes two becomes three. But weirdly enough, 3 doesn't become 4, it becomes 5, and 5 becomes 10, and 10 becomes 100, because we're looking after people. And so I want to finish on a story. So some of you guys might know, but I built a collection of music colleges called BIMM. And how that actually happened was I worked at another music college down the road, and I'd been there for about 4 or 5 years. Now, this college had just had £2 million, which is probably about $2.7 million worth of investment into the building alone. This place was a spaceship. It looked like Disneyland. There was like different colors around the corridor. There was like more gear than you could ever wish for, because every manufacturer wanted to be a part of it. And it was leading the way at the time. And myself and a friend of mine, my old business partner, we left and we were like, we're gonna build our own version of this. And I remember thinking at the time, how are we gonna compete with this colossus of a college that everyone is going to, that everyone knows about, that when you walk in the door, your jaw hits the floor and you think, wow, this is amazing. And I was like, all we've got is a table, a brochure, that was literally it, and a building which was it was being done up, that it was so derelict, you couldn't go in. It was too dangerous. It was hard hat. We used to sneak people in and get them to show them, but you couldn't take them in because there was holes in the floor that they would literally perish. And so we would literally take them to a coffee shop or somewhere, sit them down, and we'd have a pad of paper, a pen, and a cup of tea or a coffee, and that would be it. And I remember thinking, how are we going to compete with this multi-million-pound business? Now I look back and I think a very different thing. Now I look back and I think to myself, how could they possibly compete with us? How? And that sounds crazy, but the reason why I think that is because they could never look after people the way that we started to look after people. We sat there and said, yeah, we don't have shiny doors. Yeah, no, we don't have all of that gear. But you know what we do have? We have time to create with you. We have time to sit and work on your career. We have time to find people that are going to come in and help. We've got time to bounce ideas back. And so what happened was people would look at the shiny and they'd look at this and go, oh, this is substance. I'm actually getting help with my career, as opposed to, Eric Clapton's going to walk in at any moment and you go, wow, it's Eric Clapton. And then he's going to leave again and everyone's going to go, oh. And at which point that became our whole philosophy. I just need to look after you better than anyone else and you'll stay. And what happened was we did that. And in the first year, we had 180 students. In the second year, I think we had 400 students. Now they've got 7,000 something students. And it all came from that first 3 years of we have to look after people, which means I need to know, as a student, I need to know their name, what instrument, what band, what they do, what music they're into. I want to know where they live. I want to know all of this stuff. It gets a bit creepy, but I want to know all of this stuff so I can have these conversations. I want to make time. And of course, in doing so, they told all of their friends and the word spread and it built. And I see exactly the same with social media. If you look after one person like they've never been looked after and they see the value in you, what you stand for and your music, they will spread the word better than you could ever spread it. And if you've got one person, that can become 2, which can become 10, and it can grow exponentially. So guys, thank you so much for watching. This is just a philosophy. This isn't the detail. This isn't the nitty-gritty to learn all of the 1% to build this. This is kind of an overview so you understand what you need to do next. When it comes to the detail, that's where DKMBA comes in. And I'm so proud of what we've built and the people who are involved in it, because it's more than just courses. Although there are so many hours of courses which go into the nitty-gritty and the detail of a lot of the things that we've talked about, plus a load of stuff more, including, Facebook ads, getting attention, other tutors who are more experienced in different aspects of the industry than myself who are coming in. But also there's the community, which I love. I love the community. There are some incredible musicians from all over the world, some incredible artists, and everyone helps. Everyone helps each other. Everyone's supportive. It's an incredibly supportive environment to learn, to figure things out, and to enjoy it as well. And then on top of that, don't forget there's the live sessions where you can come and join me. And if you've got something specific, a question that you've got to ask about your music, or something specific, it's a time where I can specifically answer it, one-on-one in that live session. So I'm super proud of it. And I think if you are serious, and if this has helped you, you've got this far in the video, if this has helped you and now you're thinking, do you know what? I feel like I don't want to be just stabbing in the dark. I don't want to be just making stuff up. I want a specific strategy to get us from A to B. Then I believe that's what DKMBA is. So hopefully you'll come and join me. And if you do, get stuck in. Make sure you get stuck in, get into that community and come and say hi. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your music, and I will see you again soon.